Because you know the Illuminati loves date setting, they will drop clues and hints along the way. Before they initiate their plans, they love giving us signs and wonders to mock us. It's just like in every evil villain movie, the villain always spills his plans right before he accomplishes them. They did this with 9/11, and they have assuredly been doing this with 9/23. Climate Summit, Catalyzing Change. Interesting title. Catalyzation usually refers to a chemical reaction, but I guess they were using it, as the dictionary puts it, to bring about or to inspire change. This was their big push for the Paris Agreement and the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which were both giant steps towards furthering their plans of globalization and the increase of excessive and completely unnecessary taxation of its people. I won't go any more into that, maybe in a later video. The next year was another giant leap towards the global agenda. The 266th Pope, Pope Francis, meets with President Obama on the 266th day. I told you that they love date setting and their magical numbers. The Pope was traveling all around the world, meeting with world leaders to push the one world religion agenda. So let's listen to YouTuber Paul Begley comment on their meeting.
Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? Pope Francis has arrived at the White House, and President Barack Obama has addressed the crowd in the back lawn, if you will, of the White House of the United States of America. And then Pope Francis also spoke. Pope Francis did mention climate change as one of the agendas maybe for this meeting. Also mentioned that it's a time for change, or basically a time of a change that needs to take place, and that the world is evolving. We'll have to find out more about what that all means. Now, this meeting took place on the Jewish Day of Atonement, the Yom Kippur, and also it happens to be as the Hajj is taking place in Mecca, which those 2 days don't normally hit the same time every year. And they're not the same day every year, but this year they just so happen to be the same day. Also, this meeting is taking place while the CERN in Geneva, Switzerland is being cranked to 99.9% of the speed of light, in which they're going to collide the protons. This is the moment where some feel that the gates of hell will be opened, that maybe Apollyon and Abaddon will crawl out of the bottomless pit with the keys of damnation. And then there's the realization that this is the 266th Pope of all time. And this is the 266th day of the year. And that there is 266 days in which a woman gestation period to give birth. And the question has to be, is this the birthing of a new world order? Is this what President George H.W. Bush meant, that one day it would come? And the reason we bring this up is because this is the 70th anniversary, or the 70th General Assembly of the United Nations. And it is the beginning of what they call Agenda 2030, global sustainability, and the implementation of Agenda 2030. See, in 2001 was the formation of Agenda 2030. And for 15 years, the UN has been involved in the formation. But now it's the implementation. And if you go look and see what Agenda 2030 is, it is a one world governance, an international law. It is a one world economic system based on fairness, or super socialism. It is a one world religious institution in which all men worship equally. What does that mean? And who are they worshiping? And so, no doubt, what you're witnessing is the New World Order. The Bible would call this a seven-headed monster, or a beast. Now, is this where we're at on this historical and biblical timeline, which, oh, by the way, we're approaching the fourth and final blood moon, a super blood moon visible from the streets of Jerusalem. And that's coming up September 28th in the early morning hours. Now, I'll be preaching a blood moon revival September 27, 28, 29, and 30 in Hyman, Pennsylvania. So it's an incredible, and here's something you might want to know. On September 27th, while I'm preaching in Hyman, Pennsylvania, Pope Francis will be holding Mass in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And he will then leave America on his plane and start flying back to Rome. And while he's in the air, he will have a perfect view of the blood moon. Above the clouds, he will have a front row seat in the heavens as the moon turns blood red. Are you serious?
And if you look even further into the past, on the same date, September 23rd of 1950, the McCarran Internal Security Act was passed. This act contains an emergency detention statute giving the president the authority to apprehend and detain each person as to whom there is a reasonable ground to believe that such person probably will engage in, or probably will conspire with others to engage in, acts of espionage or sabotage. President Harry Truman, our 33rd president, vetoed it on September 22nd of 1950 and sent Congress a lengthy message in which he criticized specific provisions in the act as, and I quote, "the greatest danger to freedom of speech, press, and assembly since the Alien and Sedition laws of 1798, a mockery of the Bill of Rights, and a long step towards totalitarianism." The House overrode the veto without debate by a vote of 286 to 48 the very same day. Does this sound similar to Minority Report, the movie in which people were tried and jailed before they could even commit a crime? This is why I believe that the NSA has been so hungry, working feverishly to record all our texts, data, and conversations, even the shows that we watch, because their mission is not to find actual terrorists. If this was the case, then how could anyone create an act of terrorism, since they spy on literally every single person in the world that has a cell phone or access to a computer, where no one is exempt from this, including all world leaders, but they do nothing to try and stop these terrorists? You see, they don't need to find terrorists. That is not part of their mission. They want to create them out of thin air. They want to paint you and label you as a terrorist if they could. When all this goes down and the power grid goes out by some act of, and I quote, terrorism, unquote, and they have collected enough evidence on you, you might find yourself being whisked off to an internment camp. And if you don't believe me that our government would do such a thing, research FEMA camps and try to understand why there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of these spread out all over the United States. And do you remember when they had already done this in the past during the Second World War, where they detained all of our Japanese U.S. citizens? I have also been hearing rumors of people seeing UN type of vehicles being transported all over by trains and helicopters. Folks, this is getting more real by the minute. Wake up. I don't mean to frighten you, but by God, I sure wish you were, because if you aren't by now, you definitely should be.
When's he coming? Oh, 60s. What was the date? September 22nd.